Welcome to Triangle Wave Studios. Oh, there's a bathroom. Oh, look, a map of the Great Lakes region. Artistic inspiration on the wall. You walk into this open space, and what's that over there? It looks like a YouTube setup. There's a big overarching philosophy with our setup, both physically and metaphysically, but I'm gonna get to that later. The studio is set up into 5 different lands, like Candyland. We've got Brainland, Synthland, Tapeland, Ampland, and Drumland. Today I'm gonna take you through each one of those, but first let's start with Brainland. Everything in the studio is set up to flow here. The computer is here, and the interface is here. It is an old Apollo 8. You can even see my dialogue being recorded right here, right now. When my studio partner does mixing and film scoring and creating, this is the main spot that he sits in. And obviously we have a piano right here. Always nice to have a piano sitting right next to you, even in a funky, out-of-tune one. If you're new to audio and you don't know what an interface is, just think of it as the way to send audio from the analog world into a computer. This interface has 8 inputs. We have no more than that. The computer can only take up to 8 at a time. You have 2 patch bays that are interfacing with the rest of the room. It'll become clear as this tour goes on what's being sent and how, but a quick overview is that you have 8 inputs of the Apollo, 8 outputs, accessible from the front. In addition to these regular things like a computer and patch bay and an interface, there is some outboard gear here. This studio only has 8 external preamps, and right here you're looking at 6 of them. Don't know the model, it is a very great sounding set of preamps from the BBC. The 8 preamps that we have are hardwired, patched into a snake that's sitting over there. Inputs 1 through 6, BBC preamp. Input 7 on the snake is our Motown preamp, MTP66. That's what you're hearing the vocals through, my voice, right now. And then we have an Altec preamp. In terms of the other hardware here in Brainland, let's just look. We have 2 DBX 163 compressors, and they are wired to be in stereo if needed. One of my favorite things is the Shure SE30. It has only 3 inputs, it's a mono output, and it has a compressor. A crazy cool compressor with a variable response rate. Man, that thing sounds sick. Below that is this amazing sounding spring reverb that you've heard in the past on this channel, the Tapco 4400. It is a tank, it is beautiful, you can EQ the shit out of it. It's very, very vibey. Below that, we've got a Wazacraft tube amp expander that is currently not plugged in. Oh, and I almost forgot to mention this 500 box that has a DBX compressor and the DBX subharmonic synth, and it's sitting on top of the BBE Sonic Maximizer. Someone recently called it the MSG of mixing. And then the other thing I almost forgot was this Sony digital reverb. Ooh, should I mention the Neve summing mixer? Well, we got one of those. The flow of the rest of the room will become apparent as we move on. Right now, I want to go over to Synthland. Way too cool to not do close-ups of. My studio partner Eric Hogemeyer creates wildly groovy, beautiful sounds from this station. Instead of listening to me talk about it, let's hear some Eric.
Kind of forgotten about, but it's a really useful, simple polyphonic synth to use. We're also hearing the Yamaha FM tone generator, which is like kind of also like a 90s version of the DX7. Kind of ridiculous to try to program, but you can get a nice flugelhorn.
Clips from Synthland throughout this video, but right now let's get over to Tapeland. This should look very familiar to everyone. All of the tape machines are over here. TIAC A2340, the UR 4000 report monitor, that thing is sweet. I use that as a tape delay all the time. Eric has this cassette player that has adjustable bias and sounds really good. Tascam Porta 2, which is kind of the center, the foundation of this whole channel. Oh, what else is over here? I forgot to mention the Tascam 464.
Oh, what else is over here?
My MIDI tape synchronizer, which haven't done a video on yet. If you saw my video on feedback as an instrument, this was the main culprit. Sony EV5000. It's not patched in, because it doesn't need to be. We have this really cool scenario where we have a third patch bay. This is the only patch bay in Tapeland, which means if you're in Brainland, you can patch into tape stuff here and bring it back. That's how I can record stuff into the computer, and that's how you can get the hardware from over there. DBX compressors, the BBC, the preamps, the reverb, all that stuff that's over there can be patched in from there to here. So it's a very nice, convenient back and forth situation we have. So with all that patching said, you wanna hear something I'm working on? Yeah. Hey Eric in Synthland, what you doing now? Ah, he's playing the Moog Minotaur bass synth over a pulsar beat. I'm not gonna talk too much about Tapeland. If you want to learn more about it, just go watch a bunch of my videos. And with that being said, let's head over to Ampland. As you can see, we put these racks on the wall a long time ago. Saved a lot of damage from the flood that we had a month or two ago. Ampland is also where we keep the majority of our pedals. And yeah, they're kind of just out and about right now. That's okay. Before I talk about the amps specifically, I want to share with you my favorite part of Ampland. We have a permanent reamp box by Radial. It is permanently patched in from Brainland, so you can always send a signal out here and patch it through pedals and into amps. So in fact, I'm gonna do that for the rest of this section.
You're gonna hear my dialogue coming through the Roland Jazz Chorus 120. It's being picked up by this Shure KSM 32. The Jazz Chorus is a classic amp. It's got that built-in chorus vibrato that we all love. It's clean, it's loud. You can also see a bunch of patch cables hung up here on the wall. This is Colin's acoustic Washburn guitar. It sounds really great recorded. Down here at my feet, or in front of your face, is Eric's Ampeg Gemini 2. This is an old school, very classic amp. It's got an amazing tremolo sound on it. It's vibey, it's loud, it sounds beautiful. And over here we have a dissected Marshall JCM 800. This is Colin Stanley's, my other studio partner. This thing can also be very loud. It's very powerful. We have the head removed over here, and he's got Celestion speakers over here, and they're patched in. And up here we have a Fender Deluxe. Classic. I got this one from Jonah Levine. There's an old power supply, PS1, that I got from Sammy Marandino. There's too many pedals to name over here, but I'm gonna name some of my highlights. Game Changer Audio light pedal is super sick. My favorite. One of my favorite pedals ever. My Electro Harmonix V256 vocoder is over here. Oh, and of course, the Digitech Whammy. I think you're gonna see the Whammy again and again. That's Ampland in a nutshell. Eric, what you cooking up now over in Synthland?
The beat step is controlling.
Right now, the beat step's controlling the pulsar and the Strega.
That's Ampland in a nutshell. Let's get over to
Drumland. Drumland is pretty straightforward. It's drums. But the nice thing, and we've already talked about the Snake a little bit, is that there's always microphones set up on the drums. They're always ready to go. They're usually patched in. They're usually patched into that BBC preamp, but it's easy enough to change if needed. This mic I want to talk about, it's a Mesanovich. It's a maker in Detroit. It's a stereo ribbon mic. It is very cool. It's very great. Let's hear Eric play a little bit of the drums through that Shure that we were talking about earlier. These are very vibey sounds. Check it out. Hey Eric in Synthland, what you doing now? What do we got going on here?
Well, Beat Step Pro, sequencing Pulsar 23, and also sequencing like an LFO on the Strega.
I'm going to talk about the philosophy. And as you've noticed, we are set up in a circle. Circles are good. Circles are grand. The flow of the room, let me just take this camera off. I am standing in the center of a creative field, if you will. What's really great about this setup, unlike the traditional behind the glass engineer and blah, 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 is when you're being creative, there's no boundaries. We're all set up to get into a flow state, whether it's us by ourselves or when we bring in collaborators. It's an open atmosphere. That is the thing I love about Triangle Wave Studios. It is what makes it a creative space. We didn't talk about things today like microphones and really specific gear type stuff, but that's okay. There is more in the future coming. Just subscribe to this channel. And with that, as always, peace. Be good to each other.